was
Hmm.
two different trips now. I didn't have the right paperwork. Go back. Go back from where you came from.
Yeah. Boy, it's complicated no matter which direction you're going, I guess.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it got the sniffles. Uh, so that was interesting, both on the personal, but also in interviewing people, because it is so bad. Uh, the new policy, what's it called, the new parole policy for the 4 or 5 countries that's taken into effect, and the numbers have quickly dwindled. Uh, and they remember when we were talking on this show about the hurdles that they put for people to ask for parole.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know somebody in the U.S., somebody that will uh,
Sponsor you.
sponsor you and all that. Uh, on the Mexican side, they were questioning those, whether they were fair, but one school teacher who's a relative was saying, you know, they got to have something when they come, because otherwise they are going to suffer more along the way. I don't want them to go through Mexico and suffer.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather they do all that paperwork, because it's hell for them, but it's also embarrassing for us that they would go through our country and suffer as much, given my compatriots is what word she used.
Yeah.
You know, we know us Mexicans, and we us Mexicans are not very nice to people going through.
Mm.
So I wish we could save them the trouble if they would just take the parole option and send their paperwork.
Hmm.
So,
Very complicated.
yeah. Apparently, the numbers are saying that it's working, right?
So that's not what I've read. I've read they've run into all kinds of technological problems,
Okay.
and people were getting very frustrated. But that's all I've read.
Okay.
And anytime you initiate a new program, that's going to happen. But
Yeah. So the New York Times from a week ago, the Sunday New York Times, will have one long story that they put up in a podcast.
mm-hmm.
And the one from a week ago, what's today? The
The
6th?
6th, yeah.
Yeah. So, whatever, 2 Sundays ago. Uh, it was a very interesting, because it was two New York Times reporters that had gone over what's that, the Darien Gap.
Mm-hmm.
They had come from South America with groups, uh, and they had done the gap, and they report on how expensive and how hard it is, but they walked it. And they tell the story of a lawyer from, I think, Venezuela, that comes with their daughter, and both are city kids. Both the mom and the daughter are city. They get separated.
Mm.
The mom basically can't walk anymore, and somebody, an unknown man, says, "Well, if when I break down, could you take my daughter?" He swears he will. So he carries the girl through, and the reporters meet the girl first, and then they slow down. The mom is like 1 or 2 days behind, walking through the jungle, up mountains and mud and whatever else. And they find the mom. But by the time they bring the mom, or the mom arrives on a boat at the city where they were going to meet, the mom can no longer walk. She's carried uh, also, but they meet each other while they're in that town trying to recuperate. The Biden new policy comes into effect.
Mm-hmm.
And so now all the work that they did to get that far was no good,
Mm.
because the only way they can get into the States is if they apply. But they spent their money getting to this town somewhere in Central America. Uh, and so they have to wait there until something might happen.
Wow.
it's a very sad story of being halfway to,
Hmm.
you know, and not being able to because the new policy kicked in, from one day to the next. And
Yeah.
anyone who was already en route is screwed. Really sad.
Hmm. And that's probably a lot of people too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
People
she
are
said
going
there
all
were
the time.
2,000 people a day going through the gap. It was. I mean, to think of 2,000 people walking through anywhere, it's a huge deal. But walking, they had set up. Well, there's always people wanting to make money. So the boat people, the whatever people that were arranging groups, expedition groups, were making good money because they were well, demand had gone up.
Hmm.
And then the reporters go back and they see that after the policy, it was no longer 2,000 people, but it was still several hundred. And the conclusion was, what else are they going to do? They stay back home, they still got the same problems that they
Mhm.
wanted to get away from. So
Mm, yeah.
keep going. Okay, so that's the sad news bearing. You guys give me some positive stuff.
Positive stuff. Well, I honestly don't know. I can't think of anything. I don't know. I
Well,
can't think of anything very positive right now.
I know there's been some lawsuits on behalf of people, which, if they're successful, will be positive. But
Yeah, that's just the beginning of a long process.
yeah, yeah.
Mm, yeah, I can't think of anything. Nothing.
Well, let me add a local angle. Um, by the time this airs, the Welcoming America audit team will have come to Champaign. They're arriving in the next, well,
Mhm.
today probably. And so for the next 3 days, they will be here auditing Champaign City, the city of Champaign,
Mm,
for its preparedness uh, to be uh, designated at one of the 5 levels in as the welcoming city.
mm,
So for the next 3 days, they're interviewing different levels of both government and not-for-profit to see where we are, and they will be taking it into account. I'm not the whole process is beyond me, but the basics of it are that they come, they give an initial data collection that they've asked, please send us this, please send us that. Then they come and verify it. Then they go back and give some kind of assessment and say, of the stuff that we observed and that we got, City of Champaign is level
mm,
2, level 4, uh, and that's your official designation until you submit,
mm.
a new whatever. And Champaign, uh, ever since last fall, since we went to a conference in Charlottesville, uh, Champaign applied to be one of the 3 or 4 pilot cities across the nation.
Mm-hmm.
They got admitted into this new designation level, and so
Yeah, I
we
remember
if
that.
whatever we get, we will be one of the first 3 or 4 cities nationwide that will have a designation.
Mm,
It's just Champagne, not Urbana.
Just Champaign was the one that proposed, that signed up. So we won't know. That is, they'll be here, they'll interview whoever's on the list, uh, and then at some point, maybe as late as April, because that's the national meeting of welcoming cities. Uh, we will know. But what I'm encouraged by is, one, that somebody's willing to venture. One of the cities is uh, do the payments and whatever else needs to be done. Two, that identifies the gaps. what aren't you doing that you
Mm.
could be doing?
Mhm.
So it could be useful even if,
Even if we only get a level 1, they'll give us a list of all the things that you could be doing to get a level 2 and 3,
Mhm.
right? So for us, it is a good thing to be examined that closely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe even the county or Urbana or Savoy or the other towns can join up and say, hey, let's all gang up and say, we have very friendly mayors, right? And they're in a positive cycle. What's it called? A virtual cycle. They kind of compete, but they want to do good better than the others as far as being welcome.
Mhm.
So, so
Hmm.
more power to them if they decide to compete that way.
Yeah.
I know they want to beat Chicago. But
Chicago is
Chicago
on the.
hasn't been designated.
Ah,
oh,
interesting. I would have thought that would happen automatically.
What, that Chicago would be designated?
Yeah, or at least in the running, just sort of automatically checked out and tested and all that stuff.
Well, that you have to pay
Not that
to
much.
be analyzed.
They've got lots of money up there, right? They're rich. I thought they were rich. They got big buildings, more money than I have.
Yeah, and they have spent a lot of money trying to be. Wait a minute. So certified welcoming. I'm looking at the website. Let me show it to you.
Okay.
Let me see if I can. Uh, oh, there it is. Share. Tab. Here it is. I think it's fair to put this out. It's not a secret. It's just that you would want to keep this as it would be embarrassing if we didn't get designated at all.
Yeah, yes, it would.
Uh, but I don't think we're at 0. Uh, so this is the program. Uh, and then there's the whole website uh, for what the requirements are. Uh, and you can accept. You can see that in October, 5 new cities became certified. There you go. That would have been a nice county and city to be designated.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been good for us. Uh, but the qualifications are interesting because they're based on, I was reading it today, on sustainability principles kind of certification. So I don't know what these 5 new cities are. Somewhere in here are the list of the cities that are
already certified.
already certified. Nashua, Portland, it did say. There it is. Lancaster. Oh no, those were the old ones. I met the lady from Salt Lake who had, from the governor's office, led that, and I got a chance to connect her to some extension people. She was very thankful. Uh, there it is. Louisville, Salt Lake, Lancaster, Portland, Nashua.
Hmm.
But darn it, somewhere in here is a list of all the cities that are there. Oh, just a circle. Serves me right for that. redoing it from before. But
The screen is not changing on my end.
Mine
oh,
either.
really?
Right.
Well, that's a bummer. Thank you for telling me. I thought I was.
It's the same screen that was there at the beginning.
I see you now, which is kind of silly because it must have been when I clicked on new website. That's what it was. Stop presenting. Now, if I reshare, sorry, try to press mute. Oh, that's what happened. So it opened the new website.
There we go.
There it is. I guess if I would have shared the window. Is this changing if I move? I'm moving now.
No, it's just staying
No.
put.
How about now?
Yeah.
That worked. Whatever
All
you
right.
did.
Yeah, so 3 windows opened up, and I guess each one has its own call number or call website. But it's pretty neat. What's the purpose of this? Well, some of it is just bragging rights,
Mm-hmm.
but the other is to link up those cities that are, or entities, because it could be a county, that are trying to do better. And when it came to us, here it is. One of our purposes when we started drawing the welcoming plan was we could look to them to see what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How have you guys done language access? How much did it cost? I met one of the ladies from what is the city right at the bottom of Lake Michigan, Indiana, but it's not Chicago. It's
Gary.
connected.
Gary?
Gary, I think it might have been Gary. And it was very interesting to talk to her because she was the city representative for these initiatives.
Uh-huh.
And it was like she was very conversant on what her immigrants were doing in that part of the world, right? And she's like right next door, in essence.
Mm-hmm.
2 to 3 hours away is a neighbor.
Sure.
So
Well, and the other benefit is just to create more of a culture of welcome and spread that culture. I mean, I'm looking and saying Dallas, Texas. Texas is so anti-immigrant. There's Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And actually, the woman from Dallas, if I remember right, she's a Brazilian, the one that's heading up the work, and she is like, she's running from city government, like reporting to the mayor kind of stuff. Very, very active. The politics of it were such that she was highly visible. And what she brought to her presentation was full support.
Wow.
Because like you said, Texas wouldn't have that. So this is as of 2022 the 17 cities that were at that level, but now Welcoming America is saying certified welcoming is more tricky to designate than it is. So what they've done is they have started a stratified, and maybe it'll come here unless it's a new website.
Yeah.
Now what they'll do, it's not going to show it to us because it's in pilot, but what we're participating in is a pilot of the whole program in which instead of being one designation, you're certified to level 2 or to level 4, up to level 5, such that you can have a goal to work towards, but a recognition for where you are.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah. So we will be part of that pilot, and our designation here at Champaign will be that much. And it, I saw the list of the people being interviewed. They're not just Champaign people. It's group of, you know, from United Way to the health department to other people to see that whose area is more than the city of Champaign.
Mhm.
Uh, for me, that's part of the big gain of both welcoming plan and the demographic report. You can't separate the, you know, especially for immigrants, the line between Urbana and Champaign is non-existent. They go where they can find a job or a cheap rent or whatever else.
Mhm.
If you're talking about the lower income immigrants. But I would argue the same for the university people. They're immigrants too, often, and they have to figure out the same things. And if you have a spouse at home, you know, they're not going to work, but what can they do while their visa changes or whatever else? It's tough. So, anyway, that's good news. It's happening this week.
Yeah.
And it is part of the long range plan of our area becoming more welcoming
Mhm.
and identifying weak and strong areas.
Yeah, that's going to be really good. I'm assuming they're going to issue like an actual report that we can get a copy of, right? So they'll say you're good at this. You didn't. This wasn't so good.
Yeah.
This, you know. Yeah, that's going to be very helpful,
Yeah, I'm hoping
regardless
so
of the
too.
outcome.
Tomorrow, the News Gazette, I just heard because they wanted more info than I could provide. Uh, they wanted to put it out. So tomorrow there should be a News Gazette article on the process. Uh, and I thought it was very forward of them when they call and they heard about it. They wanted to put something out, but right now there isn't much to put out until we get a report back, right?
Right.
So we get what the results of the audit are. But we can all work towards that, and we can address each other. Hey guys, can you do this part? We do this part, and
Mm-hmm.
mesh again.
Yeah, at least it'll give us something concrete, and it might help inform what we do going forward too.
Right,
Just
advocacy.
what we want to do or what we try to do.
Yeah.
Where to put our focus.
Well, I have one more good news.
Okay.
So you guys know about the welcoming plan. We've been part of that process for a few years now.
Yeah.
But this the call had gone out, and I don't know if I had put it out very well, but since we last talked, Viodelda Burtz, who used to be in the Champaign School District, is now the welcoming plan coordinator.
Uh-huh.
So we have a dedicated person full time
Oh, okay.
on helping everybody get together for the welcoming plan.
Oh, that's
It's been
good.
a little over a year that we launched it, and there's things moving, but we hadn't put up a website. We hadn't done many things. And Gloria has been quite busy. You know, it's been a hard year for a lot of reasons, and so they hadn't gotten to it. But now they've hired somebody to do it, and it's being sponsored by both City of Champaign and New American Welcome Center.
That sounds great.
So, yeah, so Viodelda,
Excited about
this is the ramp up time now for it, because
Mhm.
we'll have somebody. The designation is going through, but the plan is, as you know, a long range plan, 5 to 10 years
Mhm.
on becoming welcoming. And I'm hoping that what drives from that is we identify the concrete needs, and we say it would cost this much to have a city office or county office or, you know, actual people with actual tasks. And we say it'll cost $250,000 a year. Let's go hunt for that money.
Hmm.
You know, create the infrastructure for it for the long run rather than having a grant that goes up and down and kills, you know, it limits long-term planning. So we'll see. So for me, that's really great progress because the communities of practice, and Viodelda used to be part of one of those. It was, if you will, a hire from within, from people, from someone who was highly involved. Uh, and those communities of practice are growing. It's the same work. What are they called? Work clubs, work sections that are in the welcoming plan. And each one of them has, we had the health, we had the education, we had those, and it's their job, 5 to 10 people on each one of those things, to gather and question those people in that sector as to what is needed, what are the priorities, and just share those needs amongst themselves.
Sounds good.
So,
that is good news.
Yeah, you have lots of good news.
yeah, I mean, it's gelling while I'm away. That's one of my beautiful benefits is I get to find out we started this stuff, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's grown much beyond us.
It sure has.
We were part of the root.
Planted the seeds.
Yeah.
But they grow up on their own. Yeah, it's I remember it was just an idea in the beginning. Very much just kind of, hey, it would be kind of cool to do this and be involved with this, and maybe we could come up with some awards or do something. It's just very, very small, and it's really become something. I like the way the Y has taken that challenge and really run with it.
Yeah.
That's been an incredible thing.
Yeah, they have gone. I don't think they even expected that they would get this far with it, right?
Uh-huh.
At the beginning, it was employees of the Y becoming involved and becoming informed, and then eventually officers here, and then forming the welcoming center.
Yeah, I don't care who does it, just as long as it gets done.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be a footnote in history if I did one little push in the right moment at the right time to the right person. That's great. I don't care.
Well, I did have one question I emailed to you guys. The religious, we have,
Right.
immigration from a religious slant. We've talked amongst ourselves in different ways, but we've never done a program like we did, let's say 40 months ago or maybe 50 months ago, when the Immigration Forum organized with different churches to put out an ad in the News Gazette.
Yeah.
Remember?
I vaguely remember it on the News Gazette side. I vaguely remember something coming out, but
I remember doing it, yeah.
What does each religion believe on immigration?
Mm-hmm.
And Megan, I think, was the one that drew it up with his big dove